Required documents for each stage of EDCF procedure. Welcome to this session. In this video, we will guide you through the necessary documents to be prepared by partner countries throughout EDCF project cycle. As you can see, EDCF project cycle consists of 6 stages. It starts with identification and project preparation. After the appraisal for the project and the issuance of pledge, Korea and partner countries enter into several commitments including loan agreement. Then, the project is implemented, and after the project completion, monitoring, and project evaluation wraps up the entire cycle. Let's find out what kinds of documents are needed for each step. First of all, for the identification and project preparation stages, EDCF carries out the country program mission to identify development demands of the partner country. Based on the results of the country program mission, midterm budget allocation for the partner country, and a list of candidate projects is confirmed via policy dialogue between the two governments in the form of aid memoir. As a first step to start a certain project concept paper, or PCP in short, should be prepared by Project Executing Agency, or PEA. As you can see, PCP clarifies the project rationale, project scope, and estimated project cost. In case your country needs technical support to carry out the feasibility study, or FS, for the candidate project, PCP may include the cost estimate for the implementation of FS as well. That is, PCP is often followed by the Project Preparation Assistance, or PPA request, which you can find on the next slide. PEA, or the borrower, should submit the request for PPA through a diplomatic channel or to EDCF directly in a designated form as shown, which includes description on the project, cost estimate, required experts for the FS, etc. Upon receipt of the request for PPA, EDCF hires or selects consulting company who will execute the FS for the candidate project. For your reference, standard form of request for PPA is available on the EDCF official website. But if your country hopes to prepare the FS on your own, you are not required to submit the request for PPA. When the FS is finalized, the borrower or partner country's Ministry of Finance should submit loan request based on the results of FS. You can find standard form of proposal for EDCF loan on the EDCF official website. Please keep in mind that such request should be forwarded through a diplomatic channel. We have described how this diplomatic channel works in a diagram for your understanding. First, the borrower officially submits the loan request to your country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Then, the document is delivered to Korean Embassy in your country, who will transfer the request to Ministry of Foreign Affairs headquarters in Korea. Finally, the request is forwarded to the Ministry of Economy and Finance of Korea. Now, preparation for the project is finished. Let's move on to the project appraisal stage. Upon receiving the loan request, Korean government undertakes the process to provide the loan. EDCF appraisal mission is dispatched to your country in order to investigate the candidate project. Before appraisal mission, EDCF sends project and a legal questionnaire to your country in order to clarify important issues and to get detailed information for the project. Project questionnaire will be prepared by the EDCF loan officer and forwarded to you at an appropriate time. Please answer to the questions in detail to smoothly proceed the appraisal process. If you wish to check the standard form of legal questionnaire beforehand, please see the EDCF official website. Based on the FS and information collected through project and legal questionnaire, EDCF reviews the proposed project by conducting field investigation and negotiates on the conditions of loan during appraisal mission. Finally, the borrower, PEA, and EDCF sign the Minutes of Discussion, or MOD in short, which stipulates mutually agreed terms and conditions on the project. Now, as appraisal for the project is completed, I guess you are quite excited to actually carry out the project, hire consultant, start detailed design, and so on. But before that, you'll have to enter into several official commitments with the Korean government. Let me explain them one by one. After the project appraisal, Korean government issues the pledge through the diplomatic channel. Upon receipt of the pledge, the borrower is supposed to submit pledge acceptance via diplomatic channel as well. Then, we are ready to conclude the loan agreement. But please keep in mind that several agreements between governments are prerequisite to the actual execution of the loan. First of all, if your country is implementing the first EDCF project, agreement or AG should be signed. Simply, AG is a basic document needed to implement projects which is agreed upon between your country and Korea. Then, arrangement or AR for each EDCF project is required to actually finance a specific project. However, for partner countries who entered into framework arrangement or FA with Korea, signing AR for every single project is not required. It is because that FA specifies prospective budget allocation for partner country over a certain period of time, along with a list of candidate projects. Therefore, concluding FA is generally recommended rather than signing AR for each project. For your reference, standard form of agreement and arrangement are available on the EDCF official website. After signing budget allocation agreements, EDCF undertakes procedures to sign the loan agreement or LA with the partner country, which I will elaborate further later. Before that, these are the samples of pledge and pledge acceptance. You can find standard form of pledge of EDCF loan on the EDCF official website for your information. Now, let's find out what kind of documents are required for the execution of the loan agreement. Before signing the LA, there are two documents that the partner country shall submit to EDCF: the procurement plan and the ethical code for procurement and employment of consultants. First, the procurement plan is the document that contains various information about the procurement method for consultant and supplier, expected contract size, and tentative employment schedule. As the procurement for the EDCF loan should be in accordance with the guidelines for procurement under the EDCF loan, please make sure that the procurement plan follows the guidelines. In case you are not familiar with the guidelines regarding the EDCF loan, you can find them on the EDCF official website, or you can always request a copy from EDCF loan officer. Next, the Ethical Code for Procurement and Employment of Consultants, as its name suggests, is a tool to alert the person or the department involved in the procurement process its responsibility to maintain the procurement procedure accountable, ethical, and transparent. Please keep in mind that the Ethical Code should be signed by Project Manager of PEA. Then, the borrower and EDCF would prepare draft LA based on the standard format. You can easily find the standard form for LA on EDCF website. However, the standard form has to be customized for each project. Upon receiving the draft LA from EDCF, the borrower, PEA, Ministry of Justice, and any other ministries or stakeholders involved shall review the draft LA. When your country needs to change certain articles or contents of the draft LA, please inform the EDCF loan officer. Then, EDCF reviews your request or suggestion and gets back to you with opinions. Generally, negotiation for the LA is accompanied by several rounds of exchanging opinions like this. After negotiation for the LA is finalized, the signatory of partner country, usually the Principal Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, shall submit an official letter stating no objection on the final draft. Finally, the LA is now ready to be signed by each government. But be careful, just signing the LA is not the end of this lengthy process. For the LA to come into effect, two documents, as shown, shall be submitted. One is the documentary evidence of the authority with the specimen signatures, and the other is a legal opinion to the borrower. In case a guarantor exists, you may have to submit additional documents. First, as you can guess, the guarantee itself. Second, documentary evidence of the authority who has signed the guarantee. Finally, a legal opinion to the guarantor. Also, keep in mind that LA will terminate in case it does not become effective within 120 days after signing. If you are unable to submit these documents within the deadline, don't forget to notify EDCF staffs, along with official letter requesting the extension of the submission deadline. If all these documentary evidences are submitted to EDCF in time, congratulations! You have successfully made it through this complicated process. Now, I am excited to guide you to the most dynamic part of the whole project cycle, project implementation. As the next process gets more complicated than so far, please listen carefully to the following part. During project implementation, you have to submit various documents. I will explain what kind of documents are required step by step. However, as these documents are referred in EDCF guidelines for the employment of consultants and guidelines for procurement, you can also look them up in these guidelines when necessary. The project implementation stage begins with hiring consultants for detailed design, construction supervision, procurement support, and so on. As the first step, PEA should prepare the Request for Proposals, or RFP, which includes terms of reference, or TOR, that specifies work scope of the consultants. EDCF may support drafting TOR or RFP in case you request. Please keep in mind that such request is recommended to be consulted during the appraisal stage and stated in MOD. This is to help EDCF loan officers to prepare necessary arrangements in advance. In principle, PEA is supposed to employ consultants through limited competitive bidding among Korean consulting firms. You may be a little nervous to hear this, since you might have a very limited information regarding the expertise of Korean firms, but you don't need to worry. If you send an official request for information on consultants, EDCF can provide profiles of qualified Korean consultants, often called as long list. Upon receiving the long list, PEA sends request for expression of interest, or REOI, to the listed companies. Before moving on, let's check the sample letter from PEA requesting technical assistance for drafting TOR and the information on consulting firms. In a response to the REOI, companies may submit the expression of interest, or EOI. Then, among the candidate consulting firms who have submitted the EOI, the PEA is supposed to select 3 to 5 consultants and form a short list based on your own evaluation criteria. The short list is subject to the review and approval by EDCF, so you are requested to send an official letter asking EDCF's approval, along with various supporting documents such as evaluation report, REOI, and EOI submitted by consulting firms. You may include any other relevant documents which are deemed necessary. Along with the approval of shortlisted consultants, EDCF examines the draft RFP to check if it is in line with the LA. For this purpose, an official letter by PEA submitting the RFP is also required, along with a draft RFP including TOR, a detailed evaluation criteria, and a draft letter of invitation. Standard form of RFP is available on the EDCF website. After EDCF's approval for the RFP, PEA may send the RFP to the shortlisted consultants and receive their proposals. Most commonly used for consultant selection is two-envelope, quality-based selection method. Under this method, consulting firms will submit 2 sealed envelopes, each containing technical proposal and financial proposal. After evaluating the technical proposal, PEA is required to submit the result for the technical evaluation along with an official letter requesting EDCF's approval. please check the sample letter on the left side, and then PEA would open the financial proposal of the consultant who obtained the highest score in the technical evaluation stage and start price negotiation with that consultant. You can see the sample letter on the right side, which includes a request for EDCF to approve the results from the financial negotiation so that PEA can proceed to enter into consultant contract. However, if PEA plans to select consultants by quality cost-based selection method, the overall evaluation and ranking report shall be additionally submitted before contract award. After financial negotiation, it is recommended for PEA to request EDCF's review on the draft contract. EDCF reviews whether the draft contract aligns well with LA and relevant guidelines. After EDCF's review, PEA and consultant shall sign the contract. However, the contract becomes effective only after EDCF's approval. Therefore, PEA should submit an official letter for approval of the contract with one certified copy. Now, you have successfully hired a consultant for the project. I suppose that by now, you may be tired of seemingly endless list of official documents. You have been doing great so far, and fortunately, the following steps will be a lot easier with the help of consultant. Let's wrap up this session and move on to the next step, which is the employment of supplier. Employment of supplier may start with pre-qualification or PQ in short. PQ is not mandatory for all EDCF projects. It is recommended for large or complex works or when the high costs of preparing detailed bids could discourage competition. PQ also ensures that invitations to bid are extended only to those who have adequate capabilities and resources to carry out the project. If PEA needs PQ for the project, you must follow the due procedures. Before starting PQ, request for approval of the pre-qualification invitation and pre-qualification document should be submitted to EDCF. Please keep in mind that the invitation should be advertised in at least one newspaper of general circulation, in English if possible. After receiving PQ applications, PEA evaluates them taking into account their experience and past performance on similar contracts, capabilities with respect to personnel or equipment, and financial position. When the evaluation is over, request for approval of the results of the evaluation should be submitted to EDCF, along with the list of applicants, summary, and evaluation of the applications, and the proposal for pre-qualification. These are the sample letters requesting EDCF's approval on the PQ invitation and document on the left, and invitation for PQ on the right. Without PQ, employment of suppliers starts with the preparation of bidding documents. Bidding documents are prepared based on EDCF's standard form, which is available on the EDCF website. Based on the standard form, necessary revisions are made to customize the document for a specific project under the responsibility of PEA, in most cases with the help of consultant. After completing bidding documents, PEA is requested to send an official letter requesting approval regarding all the bidding documents before launching the bid. Right after launching the bid, PEA is required to submit to EDCF a report including a copy of the issued invitation to bid along with a copy of the newspaper advertisement that is published. Once the interested bidders submit their bids, the next thing you should do is to evaluate the bids. This time, let's figure out what should be done in order to evaluate bids and award a contract. The evaluation process is actually quite similar to what we have already done in the consultant selection process. PEA has to achieve EDCF's approval for the results of the evaluation at each stage. The only difference between the employment of suppliers and the selection of consultant is the list of supporting documents you have to submit. You have to prepare documents such as an account of the public opening of the bids, summary and evaluation of the bids, proposal for award, draft contract, and a certificate of the eligibility of the proposed contract for the employment of suppliers. Please refer to sample letters requesting EDCF's approval on the results of technical and financial evaluation. Just like the employment of consultants, you need one more step after PEA and the supplier finishing negotiation and signing the contract. The contract will come into effect only after EDCF approval. Therefore, PEA shall submit an official letter for approval of the contract with 2 executed copies of the contract in accordance with the guidelines. If the final contract proposed to be executed differs substantially from the draft contract previously approved by EDCF, or if any substantial amendment of the contract is proposed after its execution, PEA should ask for a prior approval of EDCF. Congratulations again! Now, you have successfully hired a supplier for the project in addition to a consultant. But before moving on to the disbursement procedure, let's check on 2 more documents that are frequently submitted during the procurement stage. The first document is the request for review of advanced contracting. In principle, the contract has to be signed after the LA comes into effect. However, if the implementation of the project is urgent and the borrower hopes to expedite the procedure, the borrower may do the advanced contracting. But EDCF's approval should be first obtained. Advanced contracting is available for both of the employment of consultants and suppliers. Next document is the request for the use of contingencies. Use of contingencies frequently happens in the EDCF loans. As there is usually a time gap between the appraisal and the procurement, it is often probable that the project scope or cost changes over time. When reallocation of the contingencies is needed, the borrower may also request for EDCF's approval by sending an official letter. Now, let's move on to the disbursement procedure. 3 payment methods are available under the EDCF loan, which are commitment, direct payment, and reimbursement procedure. First, under the commitment procedure, the borrower should arrange a letter of credit issued in favor of the supplier. As a letter of credit itself acts as a disbursement application, the borrower is not required to submit documents directly to EDCF. Next, we will explore other payment methods at once as the required documents are very similar. The only difference between 2 methods is timing of disbursement. Under the direct payment procedure, payment is made by EDCF directly to the contractor. The borrower should submit an application for payment and summary sheet of disbursement, of which the official forms are attached to the LA. These 2 mandatory documents should be furnished with relevant supporting documents, which will be discussed in a minute. Under the reimbursement procedure, the borrower makes payments to the contractor. And after that, the borrower requests EDCF to make reimbursement for the amount actually paid. Therefore, the borrower should submit application for payment and summary sheet, along with the request for reimbursement. Relevant supporting documents are required as well. Please check the samples of application for payment and a summary sheet as shown. Application for payment states the payment amount, account where the payment should be made, and importantly, it should be signed by the authorized signatory. Summary sheet is attached to the application for payment. It includes various information on the disbursement, for example, whether the disbursement is for the consultant or supplier, description of goods and services provided, date and amount of payment, and a nature of payment. That is, whether it's a down payment, installment payment, or the final payment in full settlement, just like the application for payment. Summary sheet needs to be signed by the authorized signatory. But signing these 2 documents is just not enough. They should be submitted along with supporting documents which will verify the eligibility of the disbursement request. Types of supporting documents may vary. Here, you can check common supporting documents for each type of payment. For example, if the payment is against the shipment of goods, the borrower may have to provide invoice for the shipment or bill of lading. In case of payment is related to the work performed, the claim of the contractor should be submitted along with the performance certificate. However, the required documents may vary across individual projects, so keep in mind that you are required to check the conditions for disbursement in each procurement contract to clarify required supporting documents. Also, it is not necessary to provide original documents. A photocopy will suffice. Here, you can find application for payment, which includes payment certificate as a supporting document. Progress payment certificate is frequently included in the supporting documents for suppliers' interim payments. This confirmation, issued and signed by consultant who is in charge of supervision for the project, states the amount of the disbursement, breaks it down into the foreign and local portion of the loan, and verifies that the supplier is qualified for the payment. Upon receipt of these documents, EDCF goes through internal procedure to make the disbursement, and after every disbursement sends notice of disbursement to borrower. But, especially after the final disbursement, EDCF sends 2 copies of notice of completion of disbursement to the borrower. This notice states the cumulative total of disbursements along with a repayment schedule. Upon receipt of this notice, the borrower should cross-check the details of cumulative disbursements, sign it, and send 1 copy of it back to EDCF, along with an acknowledgement letter. So, we're almost at the end of project implementation stage. But, before we move on to the next step, please be reminded with just one more article in the LA. According to Section 5.02c in the LA, the borrower shall provide such information as EDCF may reasonably request concerning the project or the loan. Contents of such information can vary from case to case. If I quote just one example, if EDCF requests to distinguish the proportion between Korean and third countries' contents, the borrower should submit the relevant report as shown. Well done! We are almost reaching our destination, the successful completion of the project. I'm happy to announce that you have only one more step to cover: monitoring and evaluation. To regularly monitor the project, Section 5.02a in the LA states that the borrower or PEA shall submit to a quarterly progress report from execution of the first procurement contract to the project completion date. Quarterly progress report should include the progress status, important issues, and actions taken during project implementation. It can be prepared with the help of consultant and supplier. Once the project is fully implemented, completion evaluation is carried out. For the evaluation, the borrower or PEA should submit Project Completion Report, or PCR in short. As stated in Section 5.02b in the LA, PCR should be submitted within 6 months after the project completion date in a designated form, which you can find on the EDCF website. Based on PCR, EDCF conducts a project completion evaluation. Details of PCR and how to prepare it will be explained in another video, so I will not explain further about it in this lecture. This is the end of the video. Until now, we have shown many sample letters and standard forms of the documents required to proceed the EDCF project. Some of standard forms are available on the EDCF website, as I have mentioned throughout the lecture. In case you have difficulties to find standard forms on the website or need advice to prepare related letters, please contact the EDCF loan officers and ask for help at any time. And as must be clear by now, there are many documents to be submitted for a single project to be successfully completed. However, as this is necessary to ensure fairness in the process, I kindly ask for your understanding. I hope this lecture has helped you to better understand the required documents to implement the EDCF project. Thank you for watching so far.